Get back then by the Poolbeg Road to the strand there. He climbed over the sedge and eely oarweeds and sat on a stool of rock, resting his ash plant in a grike. A bloated carcass of a dog lay lolled on bladder rack, before him the gunwale of a boat sunk in sand. Un coche ensemble, Louis Vuillot called Gautier's prose. These heavy sands are language tide, and wind have silted here. And these, the stone heaps of dead builders, a warren of weasel rats. Hide gold there, try it. You have some. Sands and stones, heavy of the past, Sir Lad's toys. Mind you don't get one bang on the ear. I'm the bloody well gigant rolls all them bloody well boulders, bones for my stepping stones.
Fee, faw, fo, fum, I smells the blood of an Irishman.
A point live dog grew into sight, running across the sweep of sand. Lord, is he going to attack me? Respect his liberty. You will not be master of others, or their slave. I have my stick. Sit tight. From farther away, walking shoreward across from the crested tide, figures two. The two Marys, they have tucked it safe among the bulrushes. Peekaboo, I see you. No, the dog. He's running back to them. Who? Galleys of Lachlan's ran here to beach in quest of prey, their blood-breaked prows riding low on a molten pewter surf. Dane Vikings, torques of tomahawks, a glitter on their breasts when Malachy wore the collar of gold. A school of turtle-hide whales stranded in hot noon, spouting, hobbling in the shadows. Then from the starving Cageworth city, a horde of jerkin dwarfs, my people, with flares knives, running, scaling, hacking in green blubbery whale meat, famine, plague, and slaughters. Their blood is in me, their lusts my waves. I moved among them on the frozen Liffey, that I, a changeling, among the sputtering resin fires. I spoke to no one, none to me. The dog's bark ran towards them, stopped, ran back. Dog of my enemy, I just simply stood pale, silent, bayed about. Terrible la méditans. A primrose doublet, fortune's knave, smiled on my fear. For that are you pining the bark of their applause? Pretenders, live their lives. The Bruce's brothers, Thomas Fitzgerald, silken knight. Perkin Warbeck, York's false scion, and breeches of silk of white rose ivory, wonder of a day. And Lambert Simnel with a tain of nans and sutlers, a scullion crowned. All king's sons, paradise of pretenders then and now. He saved men from drowning, and you shake at a cur's yelping? But the courtiers who mocked Guido and our son Michele were in their own house. House of... We don't want any of your medieval abstrusiosities. Would you do what he did? A boat would be nearby, a lifebuoy, natuurlijk, put there for you. Would you or would you not? The man that was drowned 9 days ago off Maiden's Rock, they are waiting for him now. The truth, spit it out. I would want to, I would try. I am not a strong swimmer. Water cold, soft, when I put my face into it in the basin at Clongas. Can't see. Who's behind me? Out. Quickly, quickly. Do you see the tide flowing quickly in on all sides, sheeting the low of sand quickly, shell cocoa-colored? If I had land under my feet, I want his life to still be his, mine to be mine. A drowning man, his human eyes screamed to me out of horror of his death. I, with him, down together. I could not save her, water's bitter death, lost. A woman and a man, I see her skirties, pinned up a bit. Their dog ambled about a bank of dwindling sand, trotting, sniffing on all sides, looking for something lost in a past life. Suddenly he made off like a bounding hare, ears flung back, chasing the shadow of a low skimming gull. The man's shrieked whistle struck his limp ears. He turned, bounded back, came nearer, trotting on twinkling shanks. On a field, tinny a buck, trippant proper, unattarred. At the lace fringe of the tide he halted, with stiff forehoofs, seaward pointed ears. His snout lifted, barked at the wave noise, herds of sea morse. They serpented towards his feet, curling, unfurling many crests, every ninth breaking, plashing from further out, waves and waves. Cockle pickers. They waded a little way in the water and, stooping, soused their bags and lifted them again, waded out. The dog yelped, running to them, reared up and pawed them, dropping on all fours, again rearing up at them with mute, bearish fawning. Unheeded, he kept by them as they came towards the drier sand. A rag of wolf's tongue red panting from his jaws. His speckled body ambled ahead of them and then loped off at a calf's gallop. The carcass lay on his path. He stopped, sniffed, stalked round it. Brother? Nosing closer, went round it, sniffling rapidly like a dog, all over the dead dog's bedraggled fell. Dog skull, dog sniff, eyes on the ground, moves to one great goal. Ah, poor dog's body. Here lies poor dog's body's body. Tutters, out of that, you mongrel! The cry brought him skulking back to his master, and a blunt, bootless kick sent him unscathed across a spit of sand. Crouched in flight. He slunk back in a curve, doesn't see me. Along by the edge of the mole he lolloped, dawdled, smelt a rock, and from under a cocked hind leg, pissed against it. He trotted forward, and lifting again his hind leg, pissed quick short at an unsmelt rock. The simple pleasures of the poor. His hind paws then scattered the sand, then his forepaw dabbled and delved. Something he buried there, his grandmother? He rooted in the sand, dabbling, delving, and stopped to listen to the air, scraped up the sand again with the fury of his claws, soon ceasing. A pard, a panther, got in spouse breach, vulturing the dead. After he woke me last night, same dream. Or was it? Wait. Open hallway, street of harlots, remember? Harun al-Rashid. I am almosting it. That man led me, spoke. I was not afraid. The melon he had, he held against my face, smiled, cream fruit smell. That was the rule, said, in, come, red carpet spread, you will see who. Shouldering their bags, they trudged, the red Egyptians. His blued feet out of turn-up trousers slapped the clammy sand, a dull brick muffler strangling his unshaven neck. With woman's steps she followed, a ruffian and his strolling mort. Spoils slung at her back, loose sand and shellgrit crusted her bare feet. About her windrow face hair trailed. Behind her lord, his helpmate, being a wasp to Romeville. When night hides her body's flaws, calling under her brown shawl, from an archway where dogs have marred. Her fancy men is treating 2 royal Dublins in O'Loughlin's of Blackpits. Bus her whoppin' rogues rum lingo for, oh, my dimber whopping dell. A she-fiend's whiteness under her rancid rags. Fumbly's lane that night, the tanyard smells. White thy fambles, red thy gan, and thy quarren's dainty is. Couch a hogshead with me then, in the dark man's clip and kiss. Morose delectation Aquinas Tunbally calls this, frate porcus pino, unfallen Adam road and not rutted. Call away, let him, thy quarren's dainty is. Language no whit worse than his, monk words, merry beads jabber on their girdles, rogue words, tough nuggets patter in their pockets. Passing now. A side eye at my Hamlet hat. If I were suddenly naked here as I sit, I am not. Across the sands of all the world, followed by the sun's flaming sword to the west, trekking to evening lands. She trudges, schleps, trains, drags, tracines her load, a tide westering moon drawn in her wake. Tides myriad islanded within her, blood not mine, on Opa Ponton, a wine-dark sea. Behold the handmaid of the moon. In sleep the wet sign calls her hour, bids her rise. Bride bed, child bed, bed of death, ghost candled. Omnes caro ad te veniet. He comes, pale vampire, through storm his eyes, his bat sails blooding the sea. Mouth to her mouth's kiss. Here, put a pin in that chap, will you? My tablets? Mouth to her mouth, kiss. No, must be two of them, glue 'em well. Mouth to her mouth's kiss. His lips lipped and mouthed, fleshless lips of air, mouth to her moon, all wombing tomb. His mouth moulded, issuing breath unspeeched. Ooh, yeah. Roar of catalytic planets, globed, blazing, roaring, way, away, 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 away. Paper. The banknotes, blast them. Old DC's letter. Here. Thanking you for the hospitality, tear the blank end off. Turning his back to the sun, he bent over far to a table of rock and scribbled words. That's twice I forgot to take slips from the library counter.
His shadow lay over the rocks as he bent, ending. Why not endless till the farthest star? Darkly they are there behind this light, darkness shining in the brightness, delta of Cassiopeia, worlds. Me sits there with his augur's rod of ash in borrowed sandals, by day beside a livid sea unbeheld, in violet night walking beneath a rain of uncouth stars. I throw this ended shadow from me, man-shape ineluctable, call it back. Endless. Would it be mine, form of my form? Who watches me here? Whoever, anywhere, will read these written words? Signs on a white field. Somewhere to someone in your flutiest voice. The good Bishop of Cloyne took the veil of the temple out of his shovel hat, veil of space with coloured emblems hatched on its field. Hold hard, coloured on a flat, yes, that's right. Flat I see, then think distance, near, far, flat. I see east, back, see now. Falls back suddenly, frozen in stereoscope. Click does the trick. You find my words dark. Darkness is in our souls, do you not think? Flutia. Our souls, shame-wounded by our sins, cling to us yet more, a woman to her lover clinging, the more, the more. She trusts me, her hand gentle, the long-lashed eyes. Now where the blue hell am I bringing her out beyond the... Where in the blue hell am I bringing her beyond the veil? Into the ineluctable modality of the ineluctable visuality. She, what she? The virgin at Hodges Figus's window on Monday looking in for one of the alphabet books you were going to write? Keen glance you gave her, wrist through the braided jess of her sunshade. She lives in Leeson Park with a grief and kickshaws, a lady of letters. Talk that to someone else, Stevie, a pick-me-up. Bet she wears those curse of God stays, suspenders and yellow stockings darned with lumpy wool. Talk about apple dumplings, piuttosto, where are your wits? Touch me, soft eyes, soft, soft, soft hand. I am lonely here, oh touch me soon, now. What is that word known to all men? I'm quiet here, alone, sad too. Touch me. He lay back at full stretch over the sharp rocks, cramming the scribbled note and pencil into a pocket, his hat tilted down on his eyes. That is Kevin Egan's movement I made, nodding for his nap, Sabbath sleep. Et vidit Deus, et erant valde bona. Hello, bonjour, welcome as the flowers in May. Under its leaf he watched through peacock twittering lashes the southing sun. I'm caught in this burning scene, Pan's hour, the faunal noon. Among gum-heavy serpent plants, milk-oozing fruits, where on the tawny waters leaves lie wide, pain is far, and no more turn aside and brood. His gaze brooded on his broad-toed boots, a buck's cast-offs, neighbour none under. He counted the creases of rucked leather wherein another's foot had nested warm, the foot that beat the ground in tripudium, foot I dislove. But you were delighted when Esther Oswald's shoe went on you, girl I knew in Paris. Tiens, quel petit pied. Staunch friend, a brother soul, wild's love that dare not speak its name. His arm, Cranley's arm, he now will leave me. And the blame? As I am, all or not at all. In long lassos from the Cock Lake, the water flowed full, covering green goldenly lagoons of sand, rising, flowing. My ash plant will float away. I shall wait. No, they will pass on, passing, chafing against the low rocks, swirling, passing. Better get this job over quick. Listen, a four-worded wave speech. Si, su, vehement breath of waters amid sea snakes, rearing horses, rocks. In cups of rocks it slops, flop, slop, slap, bounded in barrels, and spent, its speech ceases. It flows purling, widely flowing, floating foam pool, flower unfurling. Under the upswelling tide, he saw the writhing weeds lift languidly and sway reluctant arms, hicing up their petticoats, in whispering water, swaying and upturning coy silver fronds. Day by day, night by night, lifted, flooded, and let fall. Lord, they are weary, and whispered too they sigh. St. Ambrose heard it, sigh of leaves and waves, waiting, awaiting the fullness of their times. Diebus ac noctibus in urias patiens ingemiscit. To no end gathered, vainly then released, forth flowing, wending back, loom of the moon. Weary too in sight of lovers, lascivious men, a naked woman shining in her courts, she draws a toil of waters. 5 fathoms out there, full fathom 5 thy father lies. At one, he said, found drowned. High water at Dublin Bar, driving before it a loose drift of rubble, fan shoals of fishes, silly shells. A corpse rising salt white from the undertow. Bobbing apace a porpoise landward. There he is, hook it quick, pull! Sunk though he be beneath the watery floor, we have him! Easy now. Bag of corpse gas, sopping in foul brine, a quiver of minnows, fat of a spongy titbit, flash through the slits of his buttoned trouser fly. God becomes man, becomes fish, becomes barnacle goose, becomes featherbed mountain. Dead breaths I living breathe, tread dead dust, devour a urinous offal from all dead. Thunderstorm, all bright he falls, proud lightning of the intellect, Lucifer dico kinescit chasm. No, my cockle hat and staff and his my sandal shoon, where? To evening lands. Evening will find itself. He took the hilt of his ash plant, lunging with it softly, dallying still. Yes, evening will find itself in me, without me. All days make their end. By the way, when is it? Tuesday will be the longest day. Of all the glad new year, mother the rum-tum tiddly-tum, Lord Tennyson, gentleman poet, Gia. For the old hag with the yellow teeth, and Monsieur de Romand, gentleman journalist, Gia. Oh, my teeth are very bad. Why, I wonder? Feel, that one is going too. Shells. Ought I go to a dentist, I wonder, with that money? That one, this, toothless Kinch the Superman, why is that, I wonder? Or does it mean something, perhaps? My handkerchief, he threw it, I remember. Did I not take it up? His hand groped vainly in his pockets. No, I didn't. Better buy one. He laid the dry snot picked from his nostril on a ledge of rock carefully. For the rest, let look who will. Behind, perhaps there is someone. He turned his face over a shoulder, rear regardant, moving through the air, high spars of a three-master, her sails brailed up on the cross trees, homing upstream, silently moving, a silent ship.
Mr. Leopold Bloom ate with relish the inner organs of beasts and fowls. He liked thick giblet soup, nutty gizzards, a stuffed roast heart, liver slices fried with crust crumbs, fried hen cods rose. Most of all, he liked grilled mutton kidneys, which gave to his palate a fine tang of faintly scented urine. Kidneys were in his mind as he moved around the kitchen softly, writing her breakfast things on the humpy tray. Gelid light and air were in the kitchen, but out of doors, gentle summer morning everywhere made him feel a bit peckish. The coals were reddening. Another slice of bread and butter, 3, 4, right. She didn't like her plate full, right. He turned from the tray, lifted the kettle off the hob and set it sideways on the fire. It sat there, dull and squat, its spout stuck out. Cup of tea soon. Good, mouth dry. The cat walked stiffly round a leg of the table with tail on high. Meow. Ah, there you are, Mr. Bloom said, turning from the fire. The cat mewed in answer and stalked again stiffly around a leg of the table, mewing. Just how she stalks over my writing table. Brrr, scratch my head, brrr. Mr. Bloom watched curiously, kindly, the lithe black form, clean to see, the gloss of her sleek hide, the white button under the butt of her tail, the green flashing eyes. He bent down to her, his hands on his knees. Milk for the pussins, he said. Wow, the cat cried. They call them stupid, but they understand what we say better than we understand them. She understands all she wants to. Vindictive too. Wonder what I look like to her. Height of a tower. No, she can jump me. Afraid of the chickens she is, he said mockingly. Afraid of the chuck-chucks. I never saw such a stupid pussins as the pussins. Cruel. Her nature. Curious. Mice never squeal. Seem to like it. Ow, the cat said loudly. She blinked up out of her avid, shaming, closing eyes, mewing plaintively and long, showing him her milk-white teeth. He watched the dark islets narrowing with greed till her eyes were green stones. Then he went to the dresser, took the jug Hanlon's milkman had just filled for him, poured warm bubbled milk onto a saucer, and set it down slowly on the floor. Grrr, she cried, running to lap. He watched the bristles shining wirily in the weak light as she tipped 3 times and licked lightly. I wonder if it's true if you clip them they can't mouse after. Why? They shine in the dark, perhaps, the tips, or kinds of feelers in the dark, perhaps. He listened to her licking lap. Ham and eggs. No, no good eggs with this drought. Want pure fresh water. Thursday. Not a good day either for a mutton kidney at Buckley's. Fried with butter. A shake of pepper. Better a pork kidney at Gluzak's. While the kettle is boiling. She lapped lower, slower, then licking the saucer clean. Why are their tongues so rough? To lap better, all porous holes. Nothing she can eat? He glanced around him. No. On quietly creaky boots, he went up the staircase to the hall and paused by the bedroom door. She might like something tasty. Thin bread and butter she likes in the morning. Still, perhaps, once in a way. He said softly into the bare hall, I'm going around the corner, be back in a minute. And when he had heard his voice say it, he added, do you want anything for breakfast? A sleepy, soft grunt answered, No, she didn't want anything. He heard then a warm, heavy sigh, softer as she turned over, and the loose brass quoits of the bedstead jingled. Must get those settled, really. Pity. All the way from Gibraltar. Forgotten any little Spanish she knew. Wonder what her father gave for it. Old style. Ah, yes, of course. Bought it at the governor's auction. Got a short knock. Hard as nails at a bargain, old Tweedy. Oh, yes, sir. At Plevna that was. I rose from the ranks, sir, and I'm proud of it. Still, he had brains enough to make that corner in stamps. Now that was far-seeing. He took his hand took his hat from the peg over his initialed heavy overcoat and his lost property office second-hand waterproof. Stamps, sticky back pictures. Dare say lots of offices are in the swim too. Course they do. The sweated legend in the crown of his hat told him mutely, Plasto's high-grade hat. He peeped quickly inside the leather headband. White slip of paper, quite safe. On the doorstep, he felt in his hip pocket for the latch key. Not there. In the trousers I left off. Must get it. Potato I have. Creaky wardrobe, no use disturbing her. She turned over sleepily that time. He pulled the hall door to after him very quietly, more, till the foot leaf dropped gently over the threshold. A limp lid. Looked shut. All right till I come back anyhow. He crossed to the bright side, avoiding the loose cellar flap of number 75. The sun was nearing the steeple of George's church. Be a warm day, I fancy. Especially in these black clothes. Feel it more. Black conducts, refracts, is it? The heat. But I couldn't go in that light suit, make a picnic of it. His eyelids sank quietly often as he walked in happy warmth. Boland's bread van delivering with trays are daily, but she prefers yesterday's loaves, turnovers, crisp crowns, hot. Makes you feel young. Somewhere in the east, early morning, set off at dawn, travel round in front of the sun, steal a day's march on him. Keep it up forever, never grow a day older technically. Walk along a strand, strange land, come to a city gate, sentry there, old rank or two, old Tweedy's big moustaches, leaning on a long kind of a spear. Wandered through on streets, turbaned faces going by, dark caves of carpet shops, big man, Turka the Terrible, seated cross-legged, smoking a coiled pipe. Cries of sellers in the streets, drink water scented with fennel sherbet, dander along all day. Might meet a robber or two. Well, meet him. Getting on to sundown, the shadows of the mosques among the pillars, priest with a scroll rolled up, a shiver of the trees signal the evening wind. I pass on. Fading gold sky. A mother watches me from her doorway. She calls her children home in their dark language. High wall. Beyond, strings twanged. Night sky, moon, violet, colour of Molly's new garters. Strings. Listen. A girl playing one of those instruments, what do you call them? Dulcimers. I pass. Probably not a bit like it really, kind of stuff you read in the Track of the Sun. Sunburst on the title page. He smiled, pleasing himself. What Arthur Griffith said about the headpiece over the Freeman leader. A home rule sun rising up in the northwest from the laneway behind the Bank of Ireland. He prolonged his pleased smile. Ikey touched that. Home rule sun rising up in the northwest. He approached Larry O'Rourke's. From the cellar grating floated up the flabby gush of porter. Through the open doorway, the bar squirted out whiffs of ginger, tea dust, biscuit mush. Good house, however, just the ends of the city traffic. For instance, Macaulay's down there, NG is position. Of course, if they ran a tram line along the North Circular from the cattle market to the quays, value would go up like a shot.
Bald head over the blind. Cute old codger. No use canvassing him for an ad. Still, he knows his own business best. There he is, sure enough, my bold Larry, leaning against the sugar bin in his shirt sleeves, watching the aproned curate swab up with mop and bucket. Simon Dedulus takes him off to a tea with his eyes screwed up. Do you know what I'm going to tell you? What's that, Mr. O'Rourke? Do you know what? The Russians. They'd only be an 8 o'clock breakfast for the Japanese. Stop and say a word about the funeral, perhaps. Sad thing about poor Dignam, Mr. O'Rourke. Turning into Dorset Street, he said freshly in greeting through the doorway, "Good day, Mr. O'Rourke." "Good day to you." "Lovely weather, sir." "'Tis all that." Where do they get the money? Coming up red-headed curates from the county Leitrim, rinsing empties an old man in the cellar. Then lo and behold, they blossom out as Adam Finlettons or Dan Talons. The thin of the competition. General thirst. Good puzzle would be cross Dublin without passing a pub. Save it if they can't. Off the drunks, perhaps. Put down 3 and carry 5. What is that? Bob here and there, dribs and drabs. On to wholesale orders, perhaps. Doing a double shuffle with the town travellers. Square it you with the boss and we'll split the job, see? How much would that tot to off the porter in the month? Say 10 barrels of stuff? Say he got 10% off. Or more, 50. He passed St. Joseph's National School. Brats clamour. Windows open. Fresh air helps memory. Or a lilt. Hey, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, O, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W. Boys are they? Yes. Inish Turk, Inish Shark, Inish Boffin. At their jug of fry. Mine, Sleeve Blue. He halted before Gluggat's window, staring at the hanks of sausages, polonies, black and white. 15 multiplied by. The figures whitened in his mind, unsolved. Displeased, he let them fade. The shiny links, packed with force meat, fed his gaze, and he breathed in tranquility the lukewarm breath of cooked, spicy pig's blood. A kidney oozed blood gouts on the willow-patterned dish, the last. He stood by the next-door girl at the counter. Would she buy it too? Calling the items from a slip in her hand? A chapped, a washing soda, and £1.50 of Denny's sausages. His eyes rested on her vigorous hips. Woods, his name is. Wonder what he does. Wife is oldish, new blood. No followers allowed. Strong pair of arms. Whacking a carpet on the clothesline. She does whack it, by George, the way her crooked skirt swings at each whack. The fairy-tale pork butcher folded the sausages he had snipped off with blotchy fingers, sausage pink. Sound meat there, like a stall-fed heifer. He took a page up from the pile of cut sheets. The model farm at Kinnereth, on the lake shore of Tiberias. Can become ideal winter sanatorium. Moses Montefiore. I thought he was. Farmhouse, wall round it, blurred cattle cropping. He held the page from him. Interesting. Read it nearer. The title, the blurred cropping cattle, the page rustling, a young white heifer. Those mornings in the cattle market, the beasts lowing in their pens, branded sheep, flop and fall of dung, the breeders in hobnailed boots trudging through the litter, slapping a palm on a ripe-meated hindquarter. There's a prime one, unpeeled switches in their hands. He held the page aslant patiently, bending his senses and his will, his soft subject gaze at rest. The crooked skirts swinging, whack by whack by whack. The pork butcher snapped 2 sheets from the pile, wrapped up her prime sausages, and made a red grimace. "Now, my miss," he said. She tendered a coin, smiling boldly, holding her thick wrist out. "Thank you, my miss, and 1 shilling 3pence change for you, please." Mr. Bloom pointed quickly, to catch up and walk behind her if she went slowly, behind her moving hams. Pleasant to see first thing in the morning. Hurry up, damn it. Make hay while the sun shines. She stood outside the shop in sunlight and sauntered lazily to the right. He sighed down his nose. They never understand. soldered chapped hands, crusted toenails too, brown scapulas and tatters, defending her both ways. The sting of disregard glowed to weak pleasure within his breast. For another, a constable off duty, cuddling her in Eccles Lane. They like 'em sizable, prime sausage. Oh, please, Mr. Policeman, I'm lost in the wood. Threepence, please. His hand accepted the moist, tender gland and slid it into a side pocket. Then it fetched up 3 coins from his trousers pocket and laid them on the rubber prickles. They lay, were read quickly, and quickly slid disc by disc into the till. Thank you, sir, another time. A speck of eager fire from Fox eyes thanked him. He withdrew his gaze after an instant. No, better not, another time. Good morning, he said, moving away. Good morning, sir. No sign. Gone. What matter? He walked back along Dorset Street, reading gravely. Again doth Natane, Planters Company, to purchase waste sandy tracts from Turkish government and plant with eucalyptus trees, excellent for shade, fuel, and construction. Orange groves and immense melon fields north of Jaffa. You pay 80 marks and they plant a dunam of land for you with olives, oranges, almonds, or citrons. Olives cheaper, oranges need artificial irrigation. Every year you get a sending of the crop. Your name entered for life as owner in the book of the union. Can pay 10 down and the balance in yearly installments. Blythe through Strausser, 34, Berlin, W15. Nothing doing, still. An idea behind it. He looked at the cattle, blurred in silver heat. Silver-powdered olive trees. Quiet, long days. Pruning, ripening. Olives are packed in jars, eh? I have a few left from Andrews. Molly's spitting them out. Knows the taste of them now. Oranges in tissue paper packed in crates. Citrons, too. Wonder, is poor Citron still in St. Kevin's parade? And nasty Anstey with the old kither? Pleasant evenings we had then. Molly in Citron's basket chair. Nice to hold, cool, waxen fruit. Hold in the hand. Lift it to the nostrils and smell the perfume. Like that, heavy, sweet, wild perfume. Always the same, year after year. They fetched high prices too, Moisel told me. A beauteous place, Pleasant Street, pleasant old times. Must be without flaw, he said. Coming all that way, Spain, Gibraltar, Mediterranean, the Levant. Crates lined up on the quayside at Jaffa. Chap ticking them off in a book. Navvies handling them barefoot in soiled dungarees. Oh, there's what do you call him out of? How do you? Doesn't see. Chap, you know, just a salute, bit of a bore. His back's like that Norwegian captain's. Wonder if I'll meet him today. Watering cart, to provoke the rain, on earth as it is in heaven. A cloud began to cover the sun slowly, holy, grey, far. No, not like that. A barren land, bare waste, volcanic lake. The Dead Sea, no fish, weedless, sunk deep in the earth. No wind could lift those waves, grey metal poisonous, foggy waters. Brimstone, they called it, raining down. The cities of the plain, Sodom, Gomorrah, Edom, all dead names. A dead sea and a dead land, grey and old, old now. It bore the oldest, the first race. A bent hag crossed from Cassidy's, clutching a nagging bottle by the neck. The oldest people wandered far away all over the earth, captivity to captivity, multiplying, dying, being born everywhere. It lay there now. Now it could bear no more. Dead, an old woman's, the grey, sunken cunt of the world.
Desolation. Grey horror seared his flesh. Folding the page into his pocket, he turned into Eccles Street, hurrying homeward. Cold oil slid along his veins, chilling his blood. Age crusting him with a sore cloak. Well, I'm here now. Yes, I'm here now. morning mouth, bad breath images. Got up wrong side of the bed. Must begin those Sandown exercises on the hands down. Blotchy brown brick houses. Number 8 is still unlet. Why is that? Valuation is only 28. Towers, Battersby, North, MacArthur. Parlour windows plastered with bills, plasters on a sore eye. To smell the gentle smoke of tea, the fume of the pan, sizzling butter. Be near her ample bed warm flesh. Yes, yes. Quick warm sunlight came running from Berkeley Road, swiftly in slim sandals along the brightening footpath. Runs, she runs to meet me, a girl with gold hair on the wind. 2 letters and a card lay on the hall floor. He stooped and gathered them. Mrs. Molly Bloom, his quickened heart slowed at once. Bold hand, Mrs. Marion. All day. Entering the bedroom, he half closed his eyes and walked through the warm yellow twilight towards the tousled head. Who's the letters for? He looked at them. Mullingar, Millie. A letter for me from Millie, he said carefully, and a card to you, and a letter for you. He laid her card and letter on the twill bedspread near the curve of her knees. Do you want the blinds up? Letting the blind up by gentle tugs halfway, he backward I saw her glance the letter and tuck it under her pillow. That do, he said, turning. She was reading the card propped on her elbow. She got the things, she said. He waited till she had laid the card aside and curled herself back slowly with a sly snug. Hurry up with the tea, she said. I'm parched. The kettle is boiling, he said. But he delayed to clear the chair, her striped petticoat, tossed soiled linen, and shifted all in an armful onto the foot of the bed. As he went down the kitchen stairs, she called, Holiday? What? Scald the teapot. On the boil, sure enough, a plume of steam from the spout. He scalded and rinsed out the teapot and put in 4 full spoons of tea, tilting the kettle then to let the water flow in. Having set it down to draw, he took off the kettle, pushed the pan flat on the live coals, and watched the plump of butter slide and melt. While he unwrapped the kidney, the cat meowed hungrily against him. Give her too much meat, she won't mouse. They don't like pork, kosher. Here, he said, and dropped smeared blood paper fall onto her, and dropped the kidney amid the sizzling butter sauce. Pepper, sprinkled it through his fingers ring-wise from the chipped egg cup. Then he set open his letter, glancing down the pages and over. Thanks, you Mr. Coghlan. Lockout picnic, young student, Razor Boylan's seaside girls. The tea was drawn. He filled his own moustache cup, sham crown derby, smiling. Silly Millie's birthday gift. Only 5 she was then. No, wait, 4. I gave her the ample necklace she broke, putting pieces of folded brown paper in the letterbox for her. He smiled, pouring. Oh, Millie Bloom, you are my darling. You are my looking glass from night to morning. I'd rather have you without a farthing than Cathy Keogh with her Aston garden. Poor old Professor Godwin. Dreadful old case. Still, he was a curious old chap. Old-fashioned way, the way he used to bow Molly off the platform, and the little mirror in his silk hat. The night Millie brought it into the parlour. Oh, look what I found in Professor Godwin's hat. We all laughed. Sex breaking out even then. Pert little peach she was. He prodded the fork into the kidney and slapped it over, and lifted the teapot onto the tray. It bumped as he took it up, everything on it. Bread and butter, 4, sugar, spoon, her cream. Yes! He carried it upstairs, his thumb hooked on the teapot handle. Nudging the door open with his knee, he carried the tray in and set it on the chair by the bedhead. "What a time you were," she said. She set the brasses jingling as she raised herself briskly, an elbow on her pillow. He looked calmly down on her bulk and between her large soft bubs, snooping in the night dress like a she-goat's udder. The warmth of her crouched body rose in the air, mingling with the fragrance of the tea she poured. A strip of torn envelope peered from under the dimpled pillow. In the act of growing, he stayed to straighten the bedspread. "Who's the letter from?" he asked. "Old hand, Marion." "Oh, Boylan," she said. "He's bringing the programme." "What are you singing?" "Latchy Durham with J.C. Doyle," she said, "and Love's Old Sweet Song." Her full lips drinking smile. Rather stale smell that incest leaves next day, like foul flower water. "Would you like the window open a little?" She doubled a slice of bread into her mouth, asking, "What time is the funeral?" 11, I think. I didn't see the paper." Following the pointing of a finger, he took up an egg of her soiled drawers from the bed. "No." Then a twisted grey garter looped around the stocking, rumpled, shining sole. "No, that book," other stocking, her petticoat. "It must have fallen down," she said. He felt here and there. Folio. I wonder if she pronounces that right, folio. Not in the bed. Must have slid down. He stooped and lifted the valance. The book fall and sprawl against the bulge of the orange-eyed chamber pot. "Show here," she said. "I put a mark in it. There's a word I wanted to ask you." She swallowed a draught of tea from her cup with a knot handle, and, having wiped her fingers smartly, the blanket began to search the text with a hairpin. She reached the word. "Let him what?" he asked. "Here," she said. "What does that mean?" He leaned downward and read near her polished thumbnail. "Metempsychosis. Yes, who's he when he's at home?" "Metempsychosis," he said, frowning. "It's Greek, from the Greek. It means the transmigration of souls." "Ah, rocks," she said. "Tell us in plain words." He smiled, glancing askance at her mocking eyes. The same young eyes. The first night after the charades, Dolphin's barn. He turned over the smudged pages. Ruby, the pride of the ring. Hello, illustration. Fierce Italian with carriage whip. Must be Ruby, pride of the on the floor naked. She'd kindly lent. The monster Maferi desisted and flung his victim from him with an oath. Cruelty behind it all. Doped animals. Trapeze at Hengler's. Had to look the other way. Mob gaping. Break your neck and we'd break our sides. Families of them. Born them young so they can metempsychosis. That we lived after death, our souls. That's a man's soul after he dies. Dignum's soul. "Did you finish it?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but there's nothing smutty in it." "Is she in love with the first fella all the time?" "Never read it." "Do you want another?" "Yes." "Get another Paulie Cox." "Nice name he has." She poured more tea into her cup, watching it flow sideways. Must I get that Capel Street library book renewed, or they'll write to Carly, my guarantor. Reconciliation, that's the word. Some people believe, she said, that we go on living in another body after death, that we lived before. They call it reincarnation. That we've all lived before on the earth thousands of years ago or some other planet. That we have forgotten it. Some say they remember their past lives.
The sluggish cream wound curdling spirals through a tea. Better reminder of the word, metempsychosis. An example would be better. An example. The bath of the nymph over the bed, given away with Easter number of photo bits, splendid masterpiece in art colours. Tea before you put milk in. Not unlike her with her hair down, slimmer. 3 and 6 I gave for the frame. She said it would look nice over the bed. Naked nymphs, Greece, and for instance all the people that lived then. He turned the pages back. Metempsychosis, he said, is what the ancient Greeks called it. They used to believe you could be changed into an animal or a tree, for instance. What they called nymphs, for example. Her spoon ceased to stir up the sugar. She gazed straight before her, inhaling through her arched nostrils. There's a smell of burn, she said. Did you leave anything on the fire? The kidney, he cried suddenly. He fitted the book roughly into his inner pocket and, stubbing his toes against the broken commode, hurried out towards the smell, stepping hastily down the stairs with the flurried stork's legs. Pungent smoke shot up in an angry jet from the side of the pan. By prodding a prong of the fork under the kidney, he detached it and turned it turtle on its back. Only a little burnt. He tossed it off the pan onto a plate and let the scanty brown gravy trickle over it. Cup of tea now. He sat down, cut and buttered a slice of the loaf. He shore away the burnt flesh and flung it to the cat. Then he put a forkful into his mouth, chewing with discernment the toothsome, pliant meat. Done to a turn. A mouthful of tea. Then he cut away the dies of bread, sopped one in the gravy and put it in his mouth. What was that about some young student and a picnic? He creased out the letter at his side, reading it slowly as he chewed, sopping another die of bread in the gravy and raising it to his mouth. Dearest Papley, thanks ever so much for the lovely birthday present. It suits me splendid. Everyone says I'm quite the belle in my new tam. I got Mummy's lovely box of creams and am writing. They are lovely. I'm getting on swimming in the photo business now. Mr. Coghlan took one of me and Mrs. We'll send when developed. We did great biz yesterday. Fair day, and all the beef to the heels were in. We're going to Loch Owl on Monday with a few friends to make a scrap picnic. Give my love to Mummy, and to yourself a big kiss and thanks. I hear them at the piano downstairs. There's to be a concert at the Greville Arms on Saturday. There's a young student comes here some evenings named Bannon. His cousins or something are big swells and he sings Boylan's. I was on the pop of writing Blazer's Boylan's. Song about those seaside girls. Tell him silly Millie sends my best respects. I must now close with fondest love. Your fond daughter Millie. P.S. Excuse bad writing, am in hurry. Bye-bye, M. 15 yesterday. Curious, 15th of the month too. Her first birthday away from home. Separation. Remember the summer morning she was born, running to knock up Mrs. Thornton in Denzille Street. Jolly old woman. Lots of babies she must have helped into the world. She knew from the first poor little Rudy wouldn't live. Well, God is good, sir. She knew at once. He'd be 11 now if he'd lived. His vacant face stared pityingly at the postscript. Excuse bad writing. Hurry. Piano downstairs. Coming out of her shell. Row with her in the XL cafe about the bracelet. Wouldn't eat her cakes or speak or look. Sauce box. He sopped other dies of bread in the gravy and ate piece after piece of kidney. 12 and 6 a week. Not much. Still, she might do worse. Music hall stage. Young student. He drank a draught of cooler tea to wash down his meal. Then he read the letter again. Twice. Oh well, she knows how to mind herself. But if not? No, nothing has happened. Of course it might. Wait in any case till it does. A wild piece of goods. Her slim legs running down the staircase. Destiny. Ripening now. Vain. Very. He smiled with troubled affection at the kitchen window. Day I caught her in the street pinching her cheeks to make them red. Anemic a little. Was given milk too long. On the errands king that day round the Kish. Damned old tub pitching about. Not a bit funky. Her pale blue scarf loose in the wind with her hair. All dimpled cheeks and curls. Your head it simply swirls. Seaside girls. Torn envelope. Hand stuck in his trousers pockets. Jarvey off for the day, singing. Friend of the family. Swirls, he says. Pier with lamps. Summer evening. Band. Those girls. Those lovely seaside girls. Millie too. Young kisses. The first. Far away now past. Mrs. Marion. Reading. Lying back now. Counting the strands of her hair. Smiling. Braiding. A soft qualm. Regret. Flowed down his backbone. Increasing. Will happen? Yes. Prevent? Useless. Can't move. Girl's sweet light lips. Will happen too. He felt the flowing qualm spread over him. Useless to move now. Lips kissed, kissing, kissed. Full, gluey woman's lips. Better where she is down there, away, occupy her. Wanted a dog to pass the time. Might take a trip down there. August bank holiday, only 2 and 6 return. 6 weeks off, however. Might work a press pass, or through Mackay. The cat, having cleaned all her fur, returned to the meat-stained paper, nosed at it, and stalked to the door. She looked back at him, mewing. Wants to go out. Wait before a door, sometime it will open. Let her wait. Has the fidgets. Electric. Thunder in the air. Was washing at her ear with her back to the fire too.
He felt heavy, full, then a gentle loosening of his bowels. He stood up, undoing the waistband of his trousers. The cat mewed to him. Meow, he said in answer. Wait till I'm ready. Heaven is hot day coming, too much trouble to fag up the stairs to the landing. A paper. He liked to read at stool. Hope no ape comes knocking just as I'm. In the table drawer he found an old number of titbits. He folded it under his armpit, went to the door and opened it. The cat went up in soft bounds. Wanted to go upstairs, curl up in a ball on the bed. Listening, he heard her voice. Come, come, pussy, come. He went out through the back door into the garden, stood to listen towards the next garden. No sound. Perhaps hanging clothes out to dry. The maid was in the garden. Fine morning. He bent down to regard a lean file of spearmint growing by the wall. Make a summer house here, scarlet runners, Virginia creepers. Want to manure the whole place over, scabby soil. A coat of liver of sulphur, all soil like that without dung. Household slops, loam. What is this that is? The hens in the next garden? Their droppings are very good top dressing. Best of all, though, are the cattle, especially when they're fed on those oil cakes. Mulch of dung, best thing to clean ladies' kid gloves. Dirty, cleans. Ashes too. Reclaim the whole place. Grow peas in that corner there. Lettuce, always have fresh greens then. Still, gardens have their drawbacks. That bee or blue bottle here, Whit Monday. He walked on. Where is my hat, by the way? Must have put it back on the peg, or hanging up on the floor. Funny, I don't remember that. Hall stand too full, 4 umbrellas, her rain cloak, picking up the letters. Drago's shop bell ringing. Queer, I was just thinking that moment. Brown, brilliantined hair over his collar. Just had a wash and brush up. Wonder if I'd time for a bath this morning. Tara Street. Chap in the pay box there got away James Stevens, they say. O'Brien.
Deep voice that fellow Lugatz has. Agendath. What is it? Now, my miss, enthusiast. He kicked open the crazy door of the Jacks. Better be careful not to get these trousers dirty for the funeral. He went in, bowing his head under the low lintel, leaving the door ajar amid the stench of mouldy lime wash and stale cobwebs. He undid his braces. Before sitting down, he peered through a chink up at the next door window. The king was in his counting house. Nobody. Asquat on the cook stool, he folded out his paper, turning its pages over his bared knees. Something new and easy. No great hurry. Keep it a bit. Our prize titbit, Matcham's master stroke, written by Mr. Philip Beaufoy, Playgoers Club, London. Payment at the rate of 1 guinea a column has been made to the writer. 3.5, £3, 3 pounds 13 and 6. Quietly he read, restraining himself, the first column, and yielding but resisting began the second. Midway his last resistance yielding, he allowed his bowels to ease themselves quietly as he read, reading still patiently, that slight constipation of yesterday quite gone. Hope it's not too big to bring on the piles again. No, just right. So, costive. One tableau of Cascara Sagrada. Life might be so. It did not move or touch him, but it was something quick and neat. Print anything now. Silly season, he read on, seated calm above his own rising smell. Neat, certainly. Matcham often thinks of the master stroke by which he won the Laughing Witch, who now begins and ends morally, hand in hand. Smart. He glanced back through what he had read, and while feeling his water flow quietly, he envied kindly Mr. Beaufoy, who had written it and received payment of £3, 13 and 6. Might manage a sketch. By Mr. and Mrs. L.M. Bloom, invent a story for some proverb. Which? Tom, I used to try jotting down on my cuff what she said dressing. Disliked dressing together. Nicked myself shaving, biting her nether lip, hooked the placket of her skirt, timing her. 9:15. Did Roberts pay you yet? 9:20. What had Greta Conroy on? 9:23. What possessed me to buy this comb? 9:24. I'm swelled after that cabbage. A speck of dust on the patent leather of her boot. Rubbing smartly in turn each welt against her stocking calf. Morning after the bazaar dance when May's band played Ponchielli's Dance of the Hours. Explain that. Morning hours, noon, then evening coming on, then night hours. Washing her teeth, that was the first night. Her head dancing, her fan sticks clicking. Is that Boylan well off? He has money. Why? I noticed he had a good rich smell of his breath dancing. No use humming then. Allude to it. Strange kind of music that last night. The mirror was in shadow. She rubbed her hand glass briskly on her woolen vest against her full wagging bub, peering into it, lines in her eyes. It wouldn't pan out somehow. Evening hours, girls in grey gauze. Night hours then, black with daggers and eye masks. Poetical idea, pink, then golden, then grey, then black. Still true to life also, day, then the night. He tore away half the prize story sharply and wiped himself with it. Then he girded up his trousers, braced and buttoned himself. He pulled back the jerky, shaky door of the Jacks and came forward from the gloom into the air. In the bright light, lightened and cooled in limb, he eyed carefully his black trousers. The ends, the knees, the hocks of his knees. What time is the funeral? Better find out in the paper. A creak and a dark whir in the air high up. The bells of George's church, they tolled the hour. Loud, dark iron. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho. Quarter 2, there again, the overtone following through the air. Third, poor Dignam.
By lorries along Sir John Rogerson's quay, Mr. Bloom walks soberly past Windmill Lane, Lisks, the linseed crusher, the postal telegraph office. Could have given that address too. And past the sailor's home. He turned from the morning noises of the quayside and walked through Lime Street. By Brady's cottages, a boy for the skins lolled, his bucket of offal linked, smoking a chewed fag butt. A smaller girl with scars of eczema on her forehead eyed him, listlessly holding her battered cask hoop. Tell him if he smokes he won't grow. Oh, let him, his life isn't such a bed of roses. Waiting outside pubs to bring Da home. Come home to my Da. Slack hour, won't be many there. He crossed Townsend Street, past the frowning face of Bethel, yes, house of, Aleph Beth, and past Nichols the undertaker. At 11 it is, time enough. Dare say Corny Kelleher bagged the job for O'Neill's. Singing with his eyes shut, Corny. Met her once in the park. In the dark, what a lark. Police tout. Her name and address she then told with my tooraloom tay. Oh, surely he bagged it. Bury him cheap in a what you may call, with my tooraloom. In Westland Row, he halted before the window of the Belfast and Oriental Tea Company and read the legends of lead-papered packets. Choice blend, finest quality, family tea. Rather warm, tea. Must get some from Tom Kernan. Couldn't ask him at a funeral, though. While his eyes still read blandly, he took off his hat quietly, inhaling his hair oil, and sent his right hand with slow grace over his brow and hair. Very warm morning. Under their dropped lids, his eyes found the tiny bow of the leather headband inside his high-grade ha. Just there. His right hand came down into the bowl of his hat. His fingers found quickly a card behind the headband and transferred it to his waistcoat pocket. So warm. His right hand once more slowly went over his brow and hair. Then he put on his hat again, relieved, and read again, Choice blend, made of the finest salon brands. The Far East, lovely spot it must be, the garden of the world, big lazy leaves to float about on, cactuses, flowery meads, snaky lianas they call them. Wonder is it like that? Those Sinhalese lobbing about in the sun in dolce far niente, not doing a hand's turn all day. Sleep 6 months out of 12, too hot to quarrel, influence of the climate. Lethargy, flowers of idleness, the air feeds most, azot, hothouse in botanic gardens, sensitive plants, water lilies, petals too tired to, sleeping sickness in the air, walk on rose leaves. Imagine trying to eat tripe and cow heel. Where was the chap I saw in that picture somewhere? Ah, yes, in the Dead Sea, floating on his back, reading a book with a parasol open. Couldn't sink if you tried, so thick with salt. Because of the weight of the water? No. The weight of the body in the water is equal to the weight of the what? Or is it the volume is equal to the weight? It's a law, something like that. Vance in high school, cracking his finger joints, teaching the college curriculum, cracking curriculum. What is weight really when you say the weight? 32 feet per second, law of falling bodies, per second, they all fall to the ground, the earth. It's the force of gravity of the earth, it's the weight. He turned away and sauntered across the road. How did she walk with her sausages? Like that something. As he walked, he took the folded Freeman from his side pocket, unfolded it, rolled it lengthwise in a batten and tapped it at each sauntering step against his trouser leg. Careless air, just drop in to see. Per second for every second it means. From the curbstone he darted a keen glance through the door of the post office. Too late box. Post here? No one. In. He handed the card through the brass grill. Are there any letters for me? He asked. While the postmistress searched a pigeonhole, he gazed at the recruiting poster with soldiers of all arms on parade. and held the tip of his baton against his nostrils, smelling fresh printed rag paper. No answer, probably. Went too far last time. The postmistress handed him back through the grill his card with a letter. He thanked her and glanced rapidly at the typed envelope. Henry Flower, Esquire, care of Post Office, Westland Road, City. Answered anyhow. He slipped card and letter into his side pocket, reviewing again the soldiers on parade. Where's old Tweedy's regiment? Cast-off soldier. There, bearskin cap and hackle plume. No, he's a grenadier, pointed cuffs. There he is, Royal Dublin Fusiliers, red coats, too showy. That must be why the women go after them. Uniform, easier to enlist and drill. Maud Gunn's letter about taking them up O'Connell Street at night. Disgrace to our Irish capital. Griffith's paper is on the same tack now. An army rotten with venereal disease, overseas or half-seas over empire. Half-baked they look, hypnotised like. Eyes front, mark time, table, able, bed, Ed, the king's own. Never see him dressed as a fireman or a bobby. A mason, yes. He strolled out of the post office and turned to the right. Talk, as if that would mend matters. His hand went into his pocket and a forefinger felt its way under the flap of the envelope, ripping it open in jerks. Women will pay a lot of heed, I don't think. His fingers drew forth the letter and crumpled the envelope in his pocket. Something pinned on, photo perhaps? Hair? No. Oh, McCoy, get rid of him quickly. Take me out of my way. Hate company when you... Hello, Bloom, where are you off to? Hello, McCoy, nowhere in particular. How's the body? Fine, how are you? Just keeping alive, McCoy said. His eyes on the black tie and clothes, he asked with low respect, is there no trouble? I see you're... Oh, no, Mr. Bloom said. Poor Dignam, you know, the funeral is today. To be sure, poor fellow, so it is. What time? A photo it isn't. A badge, maybe. 11, Mr. Bloom answered. I must try to get out there, McCoy said. 11, is it? I only heard it last night. Who was telling me Holohan? You know Hoppy? I know. Mr. Bloom gazed across the road at the outsider drawn up before the door of the Grosvenor. The porter hoisted the valise up on the well. She stood still, waiting, while the man, husband, brother, like her, searched his pockets for change. Stylish kind of coat with that roll collar, warm for a day like this, looks like blanket cloth. Careless stand of her with her hands in those patch pockets, like that haughty creature at the polo match. Women all for caste till you touch the spot. Handsome is and handsome does. Reserved, about to yield. The Honourable Mrs. and Brutus is an honourable man. Possess her once, take the starch out of her. I was with Bob Doran. He's on one of his periodical bends and Bantam Lions, just down there in Conways we were. Doran, Lions in Conways. She raised a gloved hand to her hair. In came Hoppy, having a wet, drawing back his head and gazing from beneath his veiled eyelids. He saw the bright fawn skin shine in the glare, the braided drums. Clearly I can see today. Moisture about gives long sight perhaps. Talking of one thing or another, lady's hand. Which side will she get up? And he said, sad thing about our poor friend Paddy. What Paddy? I said. Poor little Paddy Dignam, he said. Off to the country, Broadstone probably. High brown boots with laces dangling. Well-turned foot. What is he foostering over that change for? Sees me looking. I out for the other fella always. Good fallback, 2 strings to her bow. Why, I said, what's wrong with him, I said. Proud, rich, silk stockings. Yes, Mr. Bloom said. He moved a little to the side of McCoy's talking head. Getting up in a moment. What's wrong with him, he said. He's dead, he said, and faith, he filled up. Is it Paddy Dignam? I said, I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was with him no later than Friday last or Thursday, was it, in the Arch? Yes, he said, he's gone. He died on Monday, poor fellow. Watch, silk, flash, rich stockings, white, watch. A heavy tram car, honking its gong, slewed between. Lost it. Curse your noisy pug nose. feels locked out of it. Paradise in the Perry, always happening like that, the very moment. Girl in Eustace Street hallway Monday, was it, settling her garter? Her friend covering the display of esprit de corps? Well, what are you gaping at? Yes, yes, Mr. Bloom said after a dull sigh. Another gone. One of the best, McCoy said.
The tram passed. They drove off towards the Loop Line bridge, her rich gloved hand on the steel grip. Flicker, flicker. The lace flare of her hat in the sun. Flicker, flick. Wife well, I suppose, McCoy's changed voice said. Oh, yes, Mr. Bloom said. Tip-top, thanks. He unrolled the newspaper batten idly and read idly. What is home without Plumtree's potted meat? Incomplete. With it, an abode of bliss. My missus has just got an engagement. At least it's not settled yet. Valise tack again. By the way, of no harm. I'm off that, thanks. Mr. Bloom turned his large-lidded eyes with unhasty friendliness. My wife too, he said. She's going to sing at a swagger affair in the Ulster Hall, Belfast on the 25th. That's so, McCoy said. Glad to hear that, old man. Who's getting it up? Mrs. Marion Bloom, not up yet. Queen was in her bedroom eating bread and no book. Blackened court cards laid along her thigh by sevens. Dark lady and fair man. Letter. Cat, furry black ball. Torn strip of envelope. Love's old, sweet song. Comes love's old. It's a kind of tour, don't you see? Mr. Bloom said thoughtfully. Sweet song. There's a committee formed, part shares and part profits. McCoy nodded, picking at his moustache stubble. Oh, well, he said, that's good news. He moved to go. Well, glad to see you're looking fit. Meet you knocking round. Yes, Mr. Bloom said. Tell you what, McCoy said, you might put my name down at the funeral, will you? I'd like to go, but I mightn't be able, you see. There's a drowning case at Sandy Cove may turn up, and then the coroner and myself would have to go down if the body's found. You just shove my name in if I'm not there, will you? I'll do that, Mr. Bloom said, moving to get off. That'll be all right. Right, McCoy said brightly. Thanks, old man. I'd go if I possibly could. Well, ta-lol. Just C.P. McCoy will do. That'll be done, Mr. Bloom answered firmly. Didn't catch me napping that wheeze. The quick, soft touch, soft mark. I'd like my job. Valise I have a particular fancy for. Leather. Capped corners, riveted edges, double action lever lock. Bob Cowley lent him his for the Wicklow Regatta concert last year and never heard tidings of it from that good day to this. Mr. Bloom, strolling towards Brunswick Street, smiled. My missus has just gotten reedy, freckled soprano, cheese-paring nose. Nice enough in its way for a little ballad. No guts in it. You and me, don't you know, in the same boat. Soft soaping. Give you the needle, that would. Can't he hear the difference? Thinks he's that way inclined a bit. Anyway, against my grain somehow. Thought that Belfast would fetch him. I hope that smallpox up there doesn't get worse. Suppose she wouldn't let herself be vaccinated again. Your wife and my wife. Wonder if he's pimping after me again. Mr. Bloom stood at the corner, his eyes wandering over the multicoloured hoardings. Cantrell and Cochrane's ginger ale, aromatic. Cleary's summer sale. No, he's going on straight. Hello, Leah, tonight. Mrs. Badman Palmer. Oh, I'd like to see her again in that. Hamlet she played last night. Male impersonator. Perhaps he was a woman. Why Ophelia committed suicide. Poor Papa. How he used to talk of Kate Bateman in that. Outside the Adelphi in London, waited all the afternoon to get in. Year before I was born, that was. 65. And Ristori in Vienna. What is this the right name is? By Mosenthal it is. Rachel, is it? No. The scene he was always talking about, where the old blind Abraham recognizes the voice and puts his fingers on his face. Nathan's voice, his son's voice. I hear the voice of Nathan who left his father to die of grief and misery in my arms, who left the house of his father and left the God of his father. Every word is so deeply appalled. Poor Papa, poor man. I'm glad I didn't go into the room to look at his face. That day, oh dear, oh dear. Well, perhaps it was best for him. Mr. Bloom went around the corner and past the drooping nags of the hazard. No use thinking of it anymore. Nosebag time. I wish I hadn't met that McCoy fellow. He came nearer and heard a crunching of gilded oats, the gently champing teeth. Their full book eyes regarded him as he went by, amid the sweet oaten reek of horse piss. They're Eldorado. Poor Jugginses. Sure, damn all they know or care about anything with their long noses stuck in nose bags. Too full for words. Still, they get their feed all right and their doss. Gelded too. A stump of black gutta percha wagging limp between their haunches. Might be happy all the same that way. Good poor brutes they look. Still, their neigh can be very irritating. He drew the letter from his pocket and folded it into the newspaper he carried. Might just walk into her here. The lane is safer. He passed the cabman's shelter. Curious life, the drifting cabbies. All weathers, all places, time set down, no will of their own. Volio e nom. Like to give them an odd cigarette. Sociable. Shout a few flying syllables as they passed. He hummed. La chidarem la mano, la 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 la. He turned into Cumberland Street and going on some paces, halted in the lee of the station wall. No one. Meade's timber yard, piled balks, ruins and tenements. With careful tread he passed over a hopscotch court with its forgotten picky stone. Not a sinner. Near the timber yard, a squatted child at marbles, alone, shooting the tall with a cunnythumb. A wise tabby, a blinking sphinx, watched from her warm sill. Pity to disturb them. Muhammad cut a piece out of his mantle not to wake her. Open it. And once I played marbles when I went to that old dame's school. She liked mignonette, Mrs. Ellis's, and Mr. He opened the letter within the newspaper. A flower. I think it's a yellow flower with flattened petals. Not annoyed then. What does she say? Dear Henry, I got your last letter to me, and thank you very much for it. I am sorry you did not like my last letter. Why did you enclose the stamps? I am awfully angry with you. I do wish I could punish you for that. I called you naughty boy because I do not like that other word. Please tell me, what is the real meaning of that word? Are you not happy in your home, you poor little naughty boy? I do wish I could do something for you. Please tell me what you think of poor me. I often think of the beautiful name you have. Dear Henry, when will we meet? I think of you so often, you have no idea. I have never felt myself so much drawn to a man as you. I feel so bad about it. Please write me a long letter and tell me more. Remember, if you do not, I will punish you. So now you know what I will do to you, you naughty boy, if you do not write. Oh, how I long to meet you. Henry, dear, do not deny my request before my patience are exhausted. Then I will tell you all. Goodbye now, naughty darling. I have such a bad headache today. And write by return to your longing, Martha. P.S. Do tell me what kind of perfume does your wife use? I want to know. He tore the flower gravely from its pinhole, smelt its almost no smell, and placed it in his heart pocket. Language of flowers. They like it because no one can hear, or a poison bouquet to strike him down. Then walking slowly forward, he read the letter again, murmuring here and there a word. Angry tulips with you, darling. Manflower, punish your cactus if you don't please. Poor forget-me-not, how I long violets to dear roses when we soon, anemone, meet. All naughty night-stalk wife. Martha's perfume. Having read it all, he took it from the newspaper and put it back in his side pocket.
Weak joy opened his lips. Changed since the first letter. Wonder, did she wrote it herself? Doing it indignant? A girl of good family like me? Respectable character. Could meet one Sunday after the rosary. Thank you, not having any. Usual love scrimmage. Then running round corners. Bad as a row with Molly. Cigar has a cooling effect. Narcotic. Go further next time. Naughty boy. Punish. Afraid of words, of course. Brutal, why not? Try it anyhow. A bit at a time. Fingering still the letter in his pocket, he drew the pin out of it. Common pin, eh? He threw it on the road. Out of her clothes somewhere, pinned together. Queer, the number of pins I always have. No roses without thorns. Flat Dublin voices bawled in his head. Those two sluts that night in the Coombe, linked together in the rain. Oh, Mary lost the pin of her drawer. She didn't know what to do. To keep it up, to keep it up. It? Them? Such a bad headache. Has her roses, probably. Or sitting all day typing. Eye focus, bad for stomach nerves. And what perfume does your wife use? And now could you make out a thing like that? To keep it up. Martha? Mary. I saw that picture somewhere. I forgot now, old master or faked for money. He is sitting in their house, talking. Mysterious. Also, the two sluts in the Coombe would listen. To keep it up. Nice kind of evening feeling. No more wandering about. Just lull there. Quiet dusk. Let everything rip. Forget. Tell about places you have been, strange customs. The other one, jarring ahead, was getting a supper. Fruit, olives, lovely cool water out of a well. Stone cold like the hole in the wall at Ashtown. Must carry a paper goblet next time I go to the trotting matches. She listens with big, dark, soft eyes. Tell her, more and more, all. Then a sigh. Silence. Long, long, long rest. Going under the railway arch, he took out the envelope, tore it swiftly in shreds, and scattered them towards the road. The shreds fluttered away, sank in the dank air. A white flutter. Then all sank. Henry Flower, you could tear up a cheque for £100 in the same way. Simple bit of paper. Lord Ivy once cashed a 7-figure cheque for £1 million in the Bank of Ireland. Shows you the money to be made out of porter. Still, the other brother, Lord Argyllin, has to change his shirt 4 times a day, they say. Skin breeds lice or vermin. £1 million? Oh, wait a moment. 2p a pint, 4p a quart, 8p a gallon of porter. No, 1 and 4p a gallon of porter. 1 and 4 into 20, 15 about. Yes, exactly. 15 millions of barrels of porter. What am I saying barrels? Gallons. About 1 million barrels all the same. An incoming train clanked heavily above his head. Coach after coach. Barrels bumped in his head. Dull porter slopped and churned inside. The bunghole sprang open and a huge, dull flood leaked out, flowing together, winding through mud flaps all over the level land, a lazy, pooling swirl of liquor bearing along wide-leaved flowers of its froth. He had reached the open back door of All Hallows. Stepping into the porch, he doffed his hat, took the card from his pocket and tucked it again behind the leather headband. Damn it! I might have tried to work Mackay for a purse to Mullingar. Same notice on the door. Sermon by the Very Reverend John Conmee, S.J., on St. Peter Claver, S.J., and the African Mission Prayers. For the conversion of Gladstone, they had too when he was almost unconscious. The Protestants are the same. Convert Dr. William J. Walsh, D.D., to the true religion. Save China's millions. Wonder how they explained it to the heathen Chinese. Prefer an ounce of opium. Celestials, rank heresy for them. Butter their God lying on their side in a museum, taking it easy with hand under his cheek. Joss-sticks burning, not like Ecce Homo. Crown of thorns on cross. Clever idea, St. Patrick the Shamrock. Chopsticks? Conmee. Martin Cunningham knows him. Distinguished looking. Sorry I didn't get work for him about getting Molly into the choir instead of that Father Farley who looked a fool but wasn't. They're taught that. He's not going out in bluey specs with the sweat rolling off him to baptize blacks, is he? The glasses would take their fancy, flashing. Like to see them sitting round in a ring with blub lips, entranced, listening. Still life. Lap it up like milk, I suppose. The cold smell of sacred stone called him. He trod the worn steps, pushed the swing door, and entered softly by the rear. Something going on. Some sedality. Pity so empty. Nice discreet place to be next some girl. Who was my neighbour? Jammed by the hour to slow music. Oh, that woman at midnight mass. Seventh heaven. Women knelt in the benches with crimson halters round their necks, heads bowed. A batch knelt at the altar rails. The priest went along by them, murmuring, holding the thing in his hands. He stopped at each, took out a communion, shook a drop or two, Ave and water, off it, and put it neatly into her mouth. Her hat and head sank. Then the next one. Her hat sank at once. Then the next one. A small old woman. The priest bent down to put it into her mouth, murmuring all the time. Latin. The next one. Shut your eyes and open your mouth. What? Corpus, body, corpse. Good idea, the Latin. Stupefies him first. Hospice for the dying. He don't seem to chew it, only swallows down. Rum idea, eating bits of a corpse. Why, the cannibals caught him to it. He stood aside, watching their blind masks pass down the aisle, one by one, and seek their places. He approached a bench and seated himself in its corner, nursing his hat and newspaper. These pots we have to wear. We ought to have hats modelled on our heads. They were about him, here and there, with heads still bowed in their crimson halters, waiting for it to melt in their stomachs. Something like those matzo. It's that sort of bread, unleavened shoe bread. Look at them. Now I bet it makes them feel happy. Lollipop. It does. Yes, a bread of angels it's called. There's a big idea behind it. King of Kingdom of God is within your field. First communicants. Hokey pokey penny a lump. Then feel all like one family party. Same in the theatre. All in the same swim. They do. I'm sure of that. Not so lonely in our confraternity. Then come out a bit spreeish, let off steam. Thing is, if you really believe in it, Lourdes cure, waters of oblivion, and the knock apparition, statues bleeding. Old fellow asleep near that confession box. Hence those snarls. Blind faith, safe in the arms of kingdom come, lulls all pain. Wake, this time next year.
He saw the priest stow the communion cup away, well in, and kneel an instant before it, showing a large grey boot sole from under the lace affair he had on. Suppose he lost the pin of his, he wouldn't know what to do too. Bald spot behind, letters on his back. I-N-R-I, no, I-H-S. Molly told me once, I asked her, I have sinned. Or no, I have suffered it is. And the other one, iron nails run in. Met one Sunday after the rosary. Do not deny my request. Turn up with a veil and black bag, dusk and the light behind her. She might be here with a ribbon around her neck and do the other thing all the same, on the sly, their character. That fellow that turned Queen's evidence on the Invincibles, he used to receive the, Carey was his name, the communion every morning. This very church. Peter Carey, yes. No, Peter Claver I'm thinking of. Dennis Carey. And just imagine that. Wife and 6 children at home and plotting that murder all the time. Those cross thumpers, no, that's a good name for them. There's always something shifty looking about them. They're not straight men of business either. Oh no, she's not here. The flower, no, no. By the way, did I tear that envelope up? Yes, under the bridge. The priest was rinsing out the chalice. Then he tossed off the drink smartly. Wine makes it more aristocratic than, for example, if he drank what they're used to, Guinness's porter or some Tempest beverage, Wheatley's Dublin hop bitters, or Cantrell and Corcoran's ginger ale, aromatic. Doesn't give them any of it, shrewd wine, only the other. Cold comfort, pious fraud, but quite right. Otherwise, they'd have one old boozer after another coming along, catching for a drink. Queer, the whole atmosphere of it. Quite right. Perfectly right, that is. Mr. Bloom looked back towards the choir. Not going to be any music. Pity. Who has the organ here, I wonder? Old Lynn, he knew how to make that instrument talk. The vibrato. £50 a year, they say, he had in Gardiner Street. Molly was in fine voice that day. The Stabba Mater Rossini. Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon first. Christ a pilot. Christ, but don't keep us all night over it. Music they wanted. Foot drill stopped. Could hear a pin drop. I told her to pitch her voice against that corner. I could feel the thrill in the air, the full, the people looking up. Questet homo. Some of that old sacred music, splendid. Mercadante, 7 last words. Mozart's 12th Mass, Gloria in that. And those old popes keen on music, on art and statues and pictures of all kinds. Palestrina, for example, too. They had a gay old time while it lasted, healthy too, chanting, regular hours, and then brew liqueurs, Benedictine, green chartreuse. Still, having eunuchs in their choir, that was coming a bit thick. What kind of voice is it? Must be curious to hear their own strong voices. Connoisseurs. Suppose they wouldn't feel anything after. Kind of a placid, no worry. Fall into flesh, don't they? Gluttons, tall, long legs. Who knows? Eunuch. One way out of it. He saw the priest bend down and kiss the altar and then face about and bless all the people. All crossed themselves and stood up. Mr. Bloom glanced about him and then stood up, looking over the risen hats. Stand up at the gospel, of course. Then all settled down on their knees again, and he sat back quietly in his bench. The priest came down from the altar, holding the thing out from him, and he and the mass boy answered each other in Latin. Then the priest knelt down and began to read off a card. O God, our refuge and our strength. Mr. Bloom put his face forward to catch the words. English. Throw them the bone. I remember slightly. How long since your last Mass? Glorious and Immaculate Virgin. Joseph at her spouse. Peter and Paul. More interesting if you understood what it was all about. Wonderful organisation, certainly. Goes like clockwork. Confession, everybody wants to. Then I can tell you all. Penance, punish me, please. Great weapon in their hands, more than the doctor or solicitor. Woman dying too. And I sha. And did you cha, and why did you? Look down at her ring to find an excuse. Whispering gallery, walls of ears. Husband learned to his surprise, God's little joke. Then out she comes, repentance skin deep. Lovely shame, pray at an altar, Hail Mary and Holy Mary. Flowers, incense, candles melting, hide her blushes. Salvation Army, blatant invitation. Reformed prostitute will address the meeting. How I found the Lord. Square-headed chaps, those must be in Rome. They work the whole show. And don't they rake in the money too? Bequests also to the parish priest, for the time being in his absolute discretion. Masses for the repose of my soul to be said publicly with open doors. Monasteries and convents. The priest in that Fermanagh Will case in the witness box. No browbeating him. He had his answers pat for everything. Liberty and exaltation of the Holy Mother's Church. The doctors of the Church, they mapped out the whole theology of it. The priest prayed, Blessed Michael, Archangel, defend us in our hour of conflict. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God restrain him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God thrust Satan down to hell, and with him all those other wicked spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of souls. The priest and the Mass boy stood up and walked off. All over. The woman remained behind, thanksgiving. Better be shuffling along, Brother Buzz. Come round with the plate, perhaps. Pay your Easter duty. He stood up. Hello? With those two buttons on my waistcoat open all the time. Women enjoy it. Never tell you. But we, excuse miss, there's just a fluff on your skirt behind. Placket unhooked. Glimpses of the moon. Annoyed if you don't. Why didn't you tell me before? Still like you better untidy. Good job it wasn't further south. He passed discreetly, buttoning, down the aisle and out through the main door into the light. He stood a moment, unseeing by the cold black marble white before him, and behind two worshippers dipped their furtive hands in the low tide of the holy water. Trams, a car of Prescott's dye works. A widow in her weeds, notice because I'm mourning myself. He covered himself. How goes the time? 1:15, time enough yet. Better get that lotion made up. Where is it? Ah, yes. At the last time, Sweeney's in Lincoln Place. Chemists rarely move. They're green and gold, big in jars, too heavy to stir. Hamilton Long's, founded in the year of the flood. Huguenot churchyard near here. Visit someday.
He walked southward along Westland Road, but the recipe is in the other trousers. Oh, and I forgot that latchkey too. All this funeral affair. Oh well, poor fellow, it's not his fault. When was it I got it made up last? Wait, I changed the sovereign, I remember. First of the month it must have been, or the second. Oh, we can look it up in the prescriptions book. The chemist turned back page after page. Sandy, shrivelled smell he seems to have, shrunken skull, and old. Quest for the philosopher's stone, the alchemists. Drugs age you after mental excitement. Lethargy then. Why? Reaction. A lifetime in a night. Gradually changes your character. Living all the day among herbs, ointments, disinfectants, all these alabaster lily pots, mortar and pestle, actist, folor, tivarid, smell almost cure you like the dentist's doorbell. Dr. Whack. He ought to physic himself a bit. Electry or emulsion. The first fellow that picked an herb to cure himself had a bit of pluck. Simples. Want to be careful. Enough stuff here to chloroform you. Test. Turns blue litmus paper red. Chloroform. Overdose of laudanum. Sleeping draughts. Love filters. Paregoric poppy syrup bad for cough. Clogs the pores or the phlegm. Poison's the only cures. Remedy where you least expect it. Clever of nature. About a fortnight ago, sir. Yes, Mr. Bloom said. He waited by the counter, inhaling slowly the keen reek of drugs, the dusty dry smell of sponges and loofahs. A lot of time taken up telling your aches and pains. Sweet almond oil and tincture of benzoin, Mr. Bloom said, and then orange flower water. It certainly did make her skin so delicate, white like wax. And white wax also, he said. Brings out the darkness of her eyes. Looking at me, the sheet up to her eyes. Spanish, smelling herself when I was fixing the links in my cuffs. Those homely recipes are often the best. Strawberries for the teeth, nettles and rainwater, oatmeal, they say, steeped in buttermilk, skin food. One of the old Queen's sons, the Duke of Albany, was it, only had one skin. Leopold, yes. 3 we have. Warts, bunions and pimples to make it worse. But you want a perfume too. What perfume does your peau d'Espagne? That orange flower water is so fresh. Nice smell these soaps have. Pure curd soap. Time to get a bath round the corner. Hammam. Turkish. Massage. Dirt gets rolled up in your navel. Nicer if a nice girl did it. Also, I think I do it in the bath. Curious longing I. Water to water. Combine business with pleasure. Pity no time for massage. Feel fresh then all the day. Funeral be rather glum. Yes, sir, the chemist said. That was 2 and 9. Have you brought a bottle? No, Mr. Bloom said. Make it up, please. I'll call later in the day and I'll take one of these soaps. How much are they? 4p, sir. Mr. Bloom raised the cake to his nostrils. Sweet lemony wax. I'll take this one, he said. That makes 3 and a penny. Yes, sir, the chemist said. You can pay all together, sir, when you come back. Good, Mr. Bloom said. He strolled out of the shop, the newspaper baton under his armpit, the cool, rapid soap in his left hand. At his armpit, Bantam Lyons' voice and hand said, Hello, Bloom. What's the best news? Is that today's? Show us a minute. Well, shaved off his moustache again, by Jove. Long, cold upper lip. To look younger. He does look balmy. Younger than I am. Bantam Lyons' yellow, black-nailed fingers unrolled the baton. Wants a wash too. Take off the rough dirt. Good morning. Have you used Pear's soap? Dandruff on his shoulders. Scalp wants oiling. I want to see about that French horse that's running today, Bantam Lyons said. Where the bugger is it? He rustled the pleated pages, jerking his chin on his high collar. Barber's itch. Tight collar, he'll lose his hair. Better leave him the paper and get shut of him. You can keep it, Mr. Bloom said. Ascot, gold cup. Wait, Bantam Lyons muttered. Half a mo, maximum the second. I was just going to throw it away, Mr. Bloom said. Bantam Lyons raised his eyes suddenly and leered weakly. What's that? His sharp voice said. I say you can keep it, Mr. Bloom answered. I was going to throw it away that moment. Bantam Lyons doubted an instant, leering, then thrust the outspread sheets back on Mr. Bloom's arms. I'll risk it, he said. Here, thanks. He sped off towards Conway's corner. Godspeed, scut. Mr. Bloom folded the sheets again to a neat square and lodged the soap in it, smiling. Silly lips of that chap. Betting. Regular hotbed of it lately. Messenger boys stealing to put on sixpence. Raffle for large tender turkey. Your Christmas dinner for threepence. Jack Fleming embezzling to gamble, then smuggled off to America. Keeps a hotel now. They never come back. Flesh pots of Egypt. He walked cheerfully towards the Mosque of the Baths. Remind you of a mosque. Red-baked bricks, the minarets. College sports today, I see. He eyed the horseshoe poster over the gate of College Park. Cyclists doubled up like a cod in a pot. Damn bad ad. Now, if they'd made it round like a wheel, then the spokes, sports, sports, sports. And the hub big, college, something to catch the eye. There's Hornblower standing at the porter's lodge. Keep him on hands, might take a turn in there on the nod. How do you do, Mr. Hornblower? How do you do, sir? Heavenly weather, really. If life was always like that, cricket weather. Sit around under sunshades, over after over, out. They can't play it here. Duck for 6 wickets. Still, Captain Culler broke a window in the Kildare Street Club with a slog to square leg. Donnybrook Fairmore in their line. And the skulls we were a-cracking when McCarthy took the floor. Heat wave. Won't last. Always passing, the stream of life, which in the stream of life we trace is dearer than them all. Enjoy a bath now. Clean trough of water, cool enamel, the gentle tepid stream. This is my body. He foresaw his pale body reclined in it at full, naked, in a womb of warmth, oiled by scented melting soap, softly lathed. He saw his trunk and limbs rippled over and sustained, boiled lightly upwards, lemon yellow, his navel, bud of flesh, and saw the dark, tangled curls of his bush floating. Floating hair of the stream around his limp father of thousands, a languid, floating flower.